thank our sponsor, Parati's Quality Meats, located in Cranford, New Jersey, serving customers all over New Jersey for the past 50 years. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Coach's Talk presented by the Shore Football Report. And today we have the Toms River North Mariners head football coach, Coach Dave Oizerowitz. Coach, better known as Coach Oz. I don't know what you prefer, but thanks for coming on the show today, Coach.
Appreciate all that you're doing with these shows. They're quite interesting. I know we're getting a kick out of them and learn a lot about a lot of the coaches in the Shore Conference. So thanks for having me,
Coach. You know, it's I've known you for years, and I didn't realize it, but my hardest thing is spelling your name right. I mean, where did you get some of these letters? There's an I in it now. There's an O. I mean, what's silent? I mean, I bet you there's 5 out of 6 coaches on your staff that probably have spelled your name wrong within the last week.
Well, some of them, probably some of the young ones, they think my name's Oz, and that's it. And so I know the players think that for sure. Some of them probably pretty surprised when they see my name there as a teacher on their schedule. But it's actually in Polish, and I learned this in college. I had a professor whose family was from Poland, and he said my name when he was doing a roll call, and he said Oizerowitz, and I'm like, that's not my name. And he was arguing with me, so I went home and I told my dad, and my dad's like, actually, that's how you pronounce it. He said, your grandfather changed the way it was pronounced when he came over, but the I silent and the O silent.
I'm going to go on record. Maybe you have been spelling it wrong for the last 20-something years, and we're right? Maybe.
Might be right about that.
Coach, let me do an introduction with you, and then we'll talk about the process, which everybody loves to hear, the coach's side on how they became a head football coach. I can't get over, man. You now are you are a football coach for 25 years, 11 of them as a head football coach. You're in your 9th season as the successful Toms River North head football coach, and 3 division titles you've had, 1 state championship in 2015, South Jersey Group 5, and that had to be something really special, being a head coach and winning on a very proudful program, a state championship.
Yeah, I mean that was a special journey because the hard part was actually making it into the playoffs and competing in the division, because we had you had Jackson Memorial and Brick Township and Southern Regional and a lot of the teams that we were playing. You were just trying to survive, and that was a tough year. And we kind of emerged. We got better as the year went on. Brick Memorial was really good that year and beat us quite handily, and we just kept getting better as the season went on. We kind of came together. We gelled. We got healthy. We were a little necked up early in the year, and we kind of entered the playoffs with some momentum. And going down to South Jersey, that, coaching all those years in South Jersey, I think it's some of the best public school ball in the state. And South Jersey 5, to me, is the most difficult of all of them to win. And I always say that, Shore Conference and Ocean County teams especially, they go down there. That's a graveyard for teams. So, yeah, we hold that one special and dear. But we've been chasing another one. One thing, you win them, but like, you win one, you want to win another one. And so we don't look back too much, but when you bring that up, that was a special team, special staff, and really a host of just all-time great players at Toms River North.
Now you've taken your team twice to the state finals, and wow, I mean that's tough, sifting through all those games in South Jersey in Group 5, which I agree with you is one of the most brutal sections in the state of New Jersey. Getting there twice was a great accomplishment. Prior to that, you were a assistant coach for 7 years. You won another 3 division titles. And again, you won a state championship there in 2007, and you were undefeated. I think you were Group 4, though. I don't think they had a Group 5, right?
Group 5 wasn't created, I think, until maybe 2013. So Group 4 was the largest classification until that time. And, the one thing about the 2007 team is regarded, not just for Toms River North, probably Toms River is maybe the greatest team. I know they talk about a Toms River high school team in the late 60s. I think it was 68 or 69. But, that 07 team, I put that team up against anybody that's ever played that I've seen since I've been coaching. There's been a lot of great teams in the Shore that have gone on to win sectional titles. And you're like, wow, that was a great team. That team's in that pantheon. They're in that company.
Now, Coach, you were the D coordinator for that team, and you had you were a very aggressive style back with Zach Kane, blitzing and all that, man. And I mean, coaching that kid up, and how great was it to hold the defensive coordinator position for that team?
That was the easiest position I ever had because we had the best players in the shore and probably the state in the public school. We were loaded. There wasn't a weakness. I always said, we used to walk out as a staff, and I turned to some of the assistant guys that we were walking out with. And, we would do that hitman chant, and we still do it. But the guy that was doing it was, the late great Zach Kane, and when he would do it, he meant it. And when we walked out there, I was like, man, I feel sorry for this team going out to play because they were some of the biggest, toughest, nastiest football players. They loved it. They relished it. I don't think we had to talk to them too much in pregame. Our locker room would vibrate, literally. The lights would flicker. We'd be in the coach's office. We're like, we're ready. Sometimes you wonder, as a high school coach, can't read these kids. Are they ready?
Yeah.
Are they not ready? We always knew the '07 team was ready. And so that was a season unlike any other that I've ever had. And I knew it. You knew it when it was going on, that we weren't going to lose. And this was an all-time football team, and that's certainly what they are.
Well, that's why they were champions. They were unique. Not every team is like that, but they were special. And
Yep.
that's great that you had a chance to coach those guys. Before those 7 years, Coach, you were at Lacey Township with Coach Versillo. That's where you and I had that connection for 2 years, being the defensive coordinator there, and you made the state playoffs, I believe, in 2003, coaching with Coach V over there. So, and then prior to that, you were at Lakewood as the head football coach for 2 years, where you made the state playoffs one time, and you were 4 years as an assistant, and you made the state playoffs two other times and won a division title there. So, and then before that, you were at Toms River South for 1 year. So you kind of hit a couple places in Ocean County, and now that you're in Toms River, I'm going to get you talking about the process. And anybody who doesn't know you should know that you are a big Toms River guy, and you coaching now in Toms River has to be something sweet for you, because that's all you look to do is be a head football coach in that district.
Well, it's funny. So, growing up in Toms River, I grew up actually, in the shadow of Toms River South. So I grew up off of Dayton and King Street, and that's just a few blocks from Toms River High School South. So I moved there in 1979 from Point Pleasant Borough. My dad was actually a Point Beach guy, played at the beach in the early '60s, some of the real good teams there. So football was always something that was really important, growing up in my family. And so when we got to Toms River, my dad let me know. He said, hey, where we live, the high school there, they're really good at football. They have a great tradition. And I didn't know anything about it. So I think my dad put me in youth football in '81 for the Toms River Indians, which served all three high schools, served the entire community. Pop Warner at the time, and was an outstanding organization. And so that kind of gave me the first taste of playing football. I wasn't very good when we started. I was always the smallest kid on the team, that kind of thing. And but where I really fell in love with high school ball was my dad took me to my first high school football game was in 1982, Thanksgiving Day game at Lakewood High School. So it was the traditional Toms River South,
right,
Lakewood Thanksgiving Day game. And the '82 South team had some guys on it that I'll never forget. As a little kid, they were larger than life, and it was their tailback was Jimmy Ware. He was number 34. He was the biggest guy on the offense, and the other back was a guy named Danny McCarris, who wound up being an all-time great as well, and winning the state championship the next year. So I went and watched that game. I don't know who won it. It was probably South, I think, with that kind of team. But it was a good game, and the pageantry with the band and the fans packing it in. And I sat there, and I was hooked. I was hooked on high school football, and specifically Toms River South.
Oh, you said the band, right? The band.
Yeah.
The band
the band was something else. 200 strong back in those days. So band was something. If you didn't play football, you were probably in the band in the fall. And it was just something that was unique. I'm glad I grew up in that time period. Football at South, was if you were an able-bodied male, you were playing football. Or if you weren't, you're probably in the band. So it was that important. And growing up in that town, I probably made every single high school South football game. Like I said, if I didn't go, it was because I was either playing or my mom or dad weren't around to bring me. And we would say, it was funny, me and my brother Mike, who was a few years younger than me, we would play tackle football in the front yard. And we lived on the corner of King and East Gateway. And the school buses would come home from away games down our road, down King Street. Then they would go down Melrose, and they would drop the boys, I guess, off there. And we knew if we won, because the buses would be honking and we were all excited. And we were sitting there emulating, Dwayne King and Danny McCarthy, all those guys, in the front yard. And if they didn't, which was rare in those days, they pretty much won every time. The buses didn't honk the horn, and me and my brother would be a little upset. But so big South fan growing up, and so all I wanted to do is not become a head coach. I wanted to play football for Tom's River South, and I wanted to play football, for Mr. LaBarca. So it's funny. So I had family members that went through there, and then my cousin Pete Lamasella was a really good football player, really good athlete. Actually moved from Lakewood, I think in 7th or 8th grade, and then wound up playing for the Indians, and was a high school athlete there. And I started to become a decent youth football player. And so as I approached it, those teams, I want to say the 85, 86, 87 teams were really good. And so I just kind of going to those games, it made me want to be a player there even more. So by the time I got to high school in 88, Chip Jr. was a player there. He was an All-American. Our team was really good. All those guys, they had such an outstanding football team, and they just won. Every year I was going to games, they were either the best team or Brick was the best team. That's just kind of what was happening.
Yeah.
And they certainly were the best team in Tom's River for sure. And when I started to play there, it was just an honor to be able to, try to crack that lineup, and eventually I did, and to play for that great team. And then, we played in back-to-back playoffs my junior and senior year. We wound up upsetting maybe one of the biggest upsets
Woodrow
in the history. We beat Woodrow Wilson of Camden in 91 in the final. We got upset in 90 by Brick Memorial in the rematch.
Who was your quarterback? Was that Pagano?
It was Greg Fantuzzi.
Fantuzzi, that's right. Yep.
One of my 2 or 3 best friends, and an outstanding athlete, and was a really, really bright guy. And we had a team that went up there, and we weren't the biggest, we weren't the fastest, but we found a way, and we outcoached them. We always felt, and it's funny, and this gets into the coaching part of it. So playing for Mr. LaBarca, we always felt as a South player that he was the smartest guy, that was our advantage, was that we had him leading us, and it was, and it gave us a psychological edge, and we played really, really hard for him. And I feel fortunate that I got a chance, and me and my teammates got an opportunity to play for late Mr. LaBarca.
Yeah, he was. He was very. He always had those great offenses, and I always loved those where they used to. The offensive lineman would kick up and go back down, and the old Dallas Cowboys,
the Dallas
Cowboys, and the shifting he was known for doing.
So he was very innovative.
He was.
For that time period. Even now, if it's funny, you skip forward to, our terminology and a lot of our base structure offensively, he wouldn't maybe recognize the plays and the concepts, but the base structure of our quick game, our drop back game, our base runs, they're basically modeled off of what he had and what he taught us back then at Tom's River South. And then as a young coach working with him, it's still the bones of it are still really based up and rooted out of what Mr. LaBarca had at Tom's River South and what he taught us. So, we borrowed that from him for sure.
So now let's speed up the process.
Sure.
And, you got a chance to coach with Coach Versillo. Coach Versillo, the only coach ever at Lacey. It's pretty neat to say that you coach for Coach LaBarca and also Coach. Well, you didn't coach. You played for Coach LaBarca, but you coached with Coach Versillo.
Well, actually, I coached 1 year for Mr. LaBarca in 95. And then I went to Lakewood with Chip Jr. in 97 and 98. We actually formed a friendship. He was coaching my brother in 94 when he came home from Penn State.
Right, I remember that.
And he was the one, even though I played for Mr. LaBarca, he didn't know I wanted to coach. And then I was kind of hanging around, school in town. I was back in town, and Chip said, "Hey, Dad, Dave's available," and they just happened to have an opening to coach running back. So I coached for him in 95, and then when Chip got the job in 97, he asked if I'd like to coach. I came on board with him. We coached in 97 and 98 together. When he left to go to Tom's River East, I stayed on with Nick Aramita, who actually, funny note, was our D-line coach in 91 at Tom's River South, because he was the head coach at Lakewood 2 times. He was the head coach I believe in 89 and 90.
Right.
And then 91, he came on board. Mr. LaBarca's staff was our D-line coach. And so I knew him. His son was our ball boy in 91 when we won the state title. So he kept me on and elevated me to offensive coordinator for those 2 years. We won a division in 2000. We had Thomas Carroll, good group of boys there on that team. He went on to play for the University of Miami for a few years. And he left for a principal position in Keensburg, and that opened up the job at Lakewood. And I was the head coach there for 2 years. Matter of fact, fun fact on that, I actually got offered the job the same day, the morning of my wedding, which my wife probably to this day still doesn't know about. Hopefully she doesn't know about it, but and she probably won't. But and then yes, I ended up at Lacey in 03. Coach Lou kind of recruited me to come over there, and we had two good battles the years I was the head coach there, and he kind of was interested in me from that, and brought me on board. I think he had a few openings, and yeah, that was a great experience. With Coach Lou. So just like our offense, the bones of it were from Coach LaBarca. The bones of our defense now were based and still rooted on what Coach Versillo taught me in those 2 years. The things that we did, the things that how he was coaching the 5-2 back then. We morphed it's the 3-4, but it was the 5-2, and the way he constructed it, the way he taught it, the way he coached the front was unique. He acquired that from the collegiate level, and it was innovative, and so those years were pivotal leading into my years as an assistant, as the D coordinator at Tom's River North. There's no question. We wouldn't, on the defensive side, I wouldn't have been as prepared for the job as an assistant coach going into Tom's River North when we came there with that kind of talent to be able to coach it in the way that we were able to, if I didn't spend those years with him developing that defense and understanding and his philosophy on it and his terminology.
It's really neat when you look back of all the little pieces that added up to where you are now as a coach at Tom's River North, and looking back, and saying, wow, I had some good times as a player, as a coach, and you've never shedded any negative vibes about anything. And you just always talk about, loving the present and all that stuff, and respecting everything you've done in the past. Looking back, you being a young coach when you were to where you are, you're not as young anymore, Coach. You're 47, right? You're 47 years old.
47,
Yeah.
47, a lot less hair and a lot more gray, for sure.
Do you have your walking cane next to you too? But
I can still get around pretty good.
But you experienced a lot and a lot of success too, and that's something you should be very, very proud of. And you still got so many more years ahead of you with that. So, us coaches, when you step down like I did, you're like, you want to make sure you did a good job, because that's how we are. You got to be pretty proud of everything you accomplished.
Well, I love football, and the sport kind of opens doors and it closes doors. I never really, it's interesting. I never wanted to be a head coach. So when I was upset when Nick left. I remember him telling me it was after graduation in 2001, and we went out. A bunch of the teachers went out, and he's like, Dave, I'm accepting the principal job at Keensburg Middle School, and I was like, what? It was like the world. I didn't know what was going on, and we were a few weeks away from practice. Didn't know who I was going to be coaching for, what was going to happen. I had no idea. I wasn't ready. I could tell you that. I think I was 26 years old. There was no way I was ready to be the head football coach anywhere. But that door opened. I walked through it and did the best job I could with enthusiasm and tried to put the best staff I could together. When this job opened, I didn't, I wasn't crazy about being a head coach the first time. That's why I left pretty quick. So I enjoyed being an assistant. I enjoy working with the boys. I enjoy being a position coach. I do enjoy being a coordinator. I enjoyed, the challenge of, the tactical aspects of the chess game that goes on. Preparation. I love preparation. I love practice. I didn't enjoy all the other stresses that come with being a head coach. And in many ways, I still don't. But way I figured it was now or never. I was an experienced coach. This wasn't, back like when I was became the head coach at Lakewood. I was a veteran coach. We had experienced some measure of success at North. It was a highly competitive environment to be able to go out and get that job. There was 3 separate interviews that I had to go through.
Wow.
Then there was a tremendous amount of applicants. It was no slam dunk because I was in district and because I had been on a successful staff that I'd get it. So I feel like I earned it, and I did for sure. And we've had some really good years. We play a very difficult schedule year in year out,
Hmm.
and so it's cyclical, and we'd like to reload, but there's not as many boys in general playing football in the town, so it's not as easy to recover if you have a big senior class or you have a veteran group that goes. So, I've had to get used to that. I don't like losing. I like to compete. I like to go in and compete and match wits with the other coaches. And there's so
Hmm.
many really good coaches out there in the short conference, but um, I wouldn't trade it for the world. The experience is great. You get an opportunity to affect young people, help young people. The game of football, as we know, it's more than just wins and losses. There's certain life lessons that you learn from playing ball, from playing any sport, but especially football. And so, no, I'm going to keep doing it as long as my health is good, as long as my wife says it's okay,
Yeah.
and the family supports me, and they do right now. I'm going to keep doing it.
I really enjoy this part of the interview, coach, the process. Just looking at you and knowing you in the past. I knew you as an athlete. I knew your brother as an athlete too. And you started as a Tom Driver guy. You branched out to other districts. You got some experience there, and now you're back in Tom Driver. Hopefully, to end your career down the road in Tom Driver. That's you go to a full circle, coming back to where you always idolized and wanted to coach in the Tom River School District. That's a pretty neat story right there, Coach.
Well, this is certainly my last stop. Yeah, I won't be
Yeah.
coaching anywhere else after this as a head coach. But yeah, sometimes I got to say, being a guy that grew up as a diehard South guy. Sometimes my ex teammates, they're not too happy. I'm over on the other side of town. The South folks are, they're pretty strong,
Yeah.
about and their feeling about the maroon and white. But it doesn't matter which side of the town you're on. I've been here so long. I've been here longer than I was, a fan and growing up as a Tom River South guy. So, wherever I coached, I've always given everything I got, and I'm
Yeah.
going to continue to do that
Yeah.
until our last moment.
We're going to talk later in this interview about that rivalry, Tom River North, Tom River South. So save it for later, Coach.
You got it.
Okay, Coach, now you're going to talk a little bit of 2021 Tom River North high school football schedule on the left. And then on the right is the newly formed American Division, which has a bunch of new faces on there where they just put people into their divisions. And there's no A South, B South. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But this year, you're in the American Division. So, Coach, take the floor with your schedule to the left.
Yeah, well, and listen, as long as I've been here at Tom's River North, whether it was A South or it's now the American Division, the division's been, brutal. That's the word for it. This year will be no exception. Uh, so looking at the schedule there you have in front of me, Colts Neck, we open with Colts Neck. Colts Neck is a team that over the last 2 years has really kind of skyrocketed to the top of the short conference. And I know they got a tremendous amount of players returning. So that's a difficult opener. We moved that one up from originally week 2 to week 1 to
Mm-hmm.
9:30. So we'll open up there on a Friday night. Uh, we'll then have a bye going into Donovan Catholic. Donovan Catholic has, really had a resurgence. Every year they're bringing in, some tremendous athletes from all over the short conference. And, obviously, they have a strong offensive and defensive coordinator. So, they're a difficult team to play, obviously, and they'll be a strong contender for sure. Wall, what can you say? They've been the best team in the short conference over the last 2 years. Really an unprecedented run. Probably the best Wall team since Coach Amabil's teams of the early 80s. They return a lot of players back again this year. They have an impressive coach, Tony Crandinetti. I got to say, I don't know a whole lot about him, so I haven't watched all your videos, Coach, but I did watch that video.
Mm-hmm.
And man, what an outstanding, impressive guy, public speaker, and how he presented, what he demands of his program. I can see why Wall hired him, and I can see why they're as successful as they are. So excited to play those guys for the first time when we're up there. I haven't coached there in a long time. And then Rumson, Colt Schulte, unbelievable coach, been doing it, as long as anybody. And Rumson is like a professional organization. They just the names change, but the production does not, and the way they approach things is, just at a very high level. And we had an opportunity to go up there. It's a great venue to play a game, Rumson. So I was excited that it was at Rumson to play there. And you look at that stretch there, right? At Donovan, at Wall, at Rumson. I don't know if anybody's got a tougher 3 game stretch on the road than that in the short
Well, the
conference.
Dallas
And
Cowboys might, but that's it. Yeah.
yeah, right. And then we got our 2 sister schools who both improved quite a bit last year, and we play those at home at North, and then we have the pod play.
The pod play, coach. That takes me where I want to talk about one part of your schedule, and that takes me to the Toms River South, Toms River North football game, your traditional game, where you have
Yep,
some feelings because you did say, you always idolize playing at Toms River South, and
yep.
and all that stuff, and now you're on the other side of these the game with Toms River North, but the atmosphere. Tell me something about Toms River South, Toms River North atmosphere around the town when you play.
Well, the right, both of them are big rivals.
Mm-hmm.
Probably for our staff, the South rivalry is the bigger one because we have a few South. Me and my brothers
Mm-hmm.
played at South. We grew up there. You know what I mean? So that game's important. Going to South is still a very difficult place to go play at. It's changed over the years. I prefer the old look myself, even though it's beautiful what they've done there. I prefer the old. I like the buildings in the back, and I still like the grass and the dirt down the middle of the field. But
Mm-hmm.
that's your traditional rival, and it's really difficult. We've lost the last 2 times we've gone there to play. They've had a hard time beating us at North, and it's at North this year. So we'll see what happens there. And I know they got a good football team coming back. Toms River East is a game that our kids, people got to remember, even though we have an intermediate school that feeds North directly, there is a portion of our kids that come from Silverton, so they go to intermediate school with all the East boys, and so that's a fierce rivalry. It is, and for our players, they probably tell you that's the one that's the most important to them. We want to win both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said when we're here, before you can win your division, you got to own the town. Uh, we've done a pretty good job of being a dominant force in town, but it's cyclical and it shifts a little bit. It shifted a little bit last year, unexpectedly, possibly, but those games, you throw the records out the window, you never know what's going to happen in those games traditionally, going all the way back into the late 70s when Coach Fiak was here at North and Coach Sig Sr. was the coach at South. You never know what's going to happen in those games. Sometimes a team that's not supposed to win goes and wins because of that rivalry and the pageantry of the game and the
Yeah.
emotion.
So your two non-divisional games are your rival games. So it's like, whoa, so you got a lot of high emotion going in on games out of the division, which takes us now to our talk, coach, in the newly formed American division. So I just want to talk an overview, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a couple minutes. But the new American division, every year us head football coaches, we have to be like, what's the name of our division this year? It's the American. It's not the A South. It's not the B North. All that stuff here. So all these new faces, they put all. I mean, it also is known as the SEC. Coach, they're just outstanding football programs that are thinking high level into the playoffs, not just this year, every year. Right now, what would you think about this division?
Well, I mean, we've been in it now since I want to say 2018 was the first year we put 20 was it 2018 was the first
Mm-hmm.
year we were in it, and that was up. We were coming off a 1-9 year that year, and we went in it. We wound up. We were one play away from beating Middletown South, who was in it at the time, one play away from
Mm-hmm.
winning that division if we got to stop there. And we were in it 2019. We were probably picked last in the division in 2019 going into it. We found a way to win it with one loss, which if you told me before the year, I would have said
Mm-hmm.
you're out of your mind. That's the best division that I've ever coached in. Was the two best divisions I've ever coached in my career as a head coach or as an assistant was the 2019 American Division pre-pandemic, where we found a way to win that, and the teams were very similar to what we got here, just a few different differences, and we were able to pull that one out. And also in 2013, where we didn't fare very well, that division was unreal in A South. How good it was! Everybody was good, probably other than us, and even we were in last place that year, but we took some teams down to the wire in
Mm-hmm.
the fourth quarter. We battled in that division. We weren't a pushover, even though we did come in last. So, yeah, I mean, it's a heck of a schedule. It's what the short conference is trying to create. I guess the way you got to look at it, you called it the SEC, but I guess they feel these are the 5 best teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're teams that would dispute that. I think rightfully so. But that's the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the first five best teams, and the next five best teams, and the next out and down on and throughout, based on, I guess, what they've done in the past. I don't know if it has any predictive success on what the future holds. I don't know if they look at rosters. They haven't been very clear about that, but we can talk about that if you like.
Okay, Coach Oz, you have talked to the media over the new divisions. The last couple months you have talked about it. The numbers came out. So I have the numbers right here, and let's talk a little bit about it. I have everybody's SI. I have everybody's OSI. And for those of you who don't know what's going on, Coach, the SI is your strength index. In other words, how good are you? All right. And I have it sorted to the left, and it's going 1 to 42. And your OSI is the opponent's SIs, and it's divided by, so if you play 6 teams, you add up all their SIs, divided by 6, and you inherit their OSI, which is opponent's strength index. Now, Coach, people who don't realize this, that they want to keep the OSI and the SI is to keep games competitive with the blowouts. They don't want the blowouts. So that's why they're trying to create the OSI as a very important factor in the PowerPoints, right?
From what I understand, yes. There's the formula the state's using. You check it on Gridiron, New Jersey. You have it here in front of me, and you have a grasp of it probably better than anybody that I know.
I'm very good at this stuff, Coach, and I'm confused how they sorted the divisions. Did they sort it by the SI or the OSI? And it looks like to me they did it by the OSI. And if they did it by the OSI, I'm going to be honest with you, that's your schedule. And that doesn't tell anybody how good you are. It just says that you have played tough teams. So that doesn't, I mean, you could be an 0-10 team and play the Cowboys and the Eagles and have a big OSI, but it doesn't value as a good football team. I hope they didn't do the divisions that way, because if you look at your OSI, you're the number 2 ranked OSI team in the whole shore. And if you look down, it's Wall, North, RBC, Rumson, Donovan, and Colts Neck. But if you look at your SI, you're the 21st ranked team in terms of your strength index, but yet you're in the top 5 for the division. So I have all the numbers for you that just came out recently. So is there anything?
Well, Rob, that's been my contention, and I've been an outspoken critic, and it's not. Listen, we've played the toughest teams my whole tenure here. We don't run from anybody, and we're not going to run from these teams this year. My whole thing was there's no transparency. This is the information that's not being shared with us prior to the schedules coming out, and then when it does come out, Gridiron New Jersey just released it, and you're right. Our SI, which is the one that matters, the strength index, which is supposed to indicate how strong we will be. According to that, you got Wall and Donovan and Rumson top 3. Again, I just want to know, we'll play whoever they put in front of us, but when we ask why we're playing the teams we're playing, you don't get an answer. All right? So there needs to be some transparency. They need to work, in my opinion, with the Coaches Association. If the state works with the Coaches Association at the highest level on putting schedules together, creating the format that we're going to play, why is our conference above working with our Football Coaches Association here in the Shore about being transparent and working with us? Because we want the best divisions of games possible. If this is what they're going to do, my contention is, then just go back to the old way. Take the thinking out of it. Let's go back to A South, A North. I know a lot of coaches feel very strongly on that. The whole idea of this whole scheduling was, yes, to create some parity, for it to be evenly matched. I understand that aspect of it. And listen, I know they're putting a lot of hard work into it, but they're not doing it in a way that makes the most sense. And they're not telling us how they're doing it. And that's been my bone of contention with my own athletic director. And even he's confused about it.
Coach,
and
I want to interject when you're done, but yes. The SI and the OSI are 2 different values. It's 2 different values. And I'm going to give you an example, Coach. A couple years ago, the SI was rewarded for high power points. So in other words, if you're beating teams by a lot and everything, we all know, let's say it, we had spreads. So there was you knew that you were 15.3 points favorite. If you exceeded the 15.3, your SI moves up. When your SI moves up, the team that you just played moves down. Somebody moves up, somebody moves down. That's that. And back a couple years ago, that's what you do. Now with sportsmanship, you can get to the 3 yard line, and do you want to punch another one in to exceed to get more points, or you could do the right thing and take a knee? I have done that, coach. I have taken knees and said I'd rather take the win and not try and get a higher point spread to move my SI. Well, years later, they counted the OSI. So now you got to be smart because you need to win as a head football coach by 1 point. If you win by 1 point, you could still get the win and get get the OSI higher because you didn't cover. Who cares about covering? You just want to win a football game, right?
Right.
So in today's world where they're counting the OSI, you beat somebody by 50 points, you are screwing over your team because it actually lowers their SI, which is now inherited to your OSI, and it's
Again,
tough.
to me, listen, I'm a simple person. This is way too complicated.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the divisions and I saw who won last year, who didn't, who had returning players, who didn't, to me, just common sense, the divisions should be laid out a little differently. The other thing you look at is, and I know it's something nobody wants to talk about, but you got a team like Red Bank Catholic that everybody knows is going to be a very good football team this year, and they are loaded with young players and very talented and coached well. They're in a third division. So by the way they break it up, the top division's the American. They're 2 divisions lower than that. Makes no sense. And if you look at the SI, I think they're 2 or 3. Um, we have to make a decision about what we're trying to do. If we're trying to put the best teams at the very top and the next 5 at the next division and so on, I'm all for that. That's fine. But just have a formula that's transparent. Make sure the coaches and the athletic directors all know what it is, not 2 or 3 guys doing it. All right. And it doesn't matter if you're a private or a public. I don't understand why they're spreading now. They hurt themselves. So they put Matter Day as the second one.
Oh,
Matter Day's not even playing
coach,
football this year.
Coach,
Now those
they
teams gotta go
created
pick
the
up a game.
problem. Matter
Yes.
Day created the problem, and you can't just change everybody's schedule just because
Well,
one
maybe
team.
not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But again, take the best teams that and whatever formula you're going to use, be clear about it, and put them in the first 5 in that first division, next 5, because put that SI back up if you could, coach. If you put that index up,
it's going to be hard for me to do it right now, but
understood.
Yeah.
If you look at it, you can't sit in a room and logically explain why we have the divisions at the top. Some of the divisions make a lot of sense. They're very good. All right. And they do. But it's really, and again, I'm focused really on the top 2 or 3 divisions.
Yeah.
When I look at them, they don't make sense logically to me from a mathematical standpoint, from a formula standpoint that we're using at the state level, all right, to accrue PowerPoints and competitive, edge and all that kind of stuff. And when you analyze it, I've had yet to have someone explain it as thoroughly and as clearly as you have to me just now. And to me, that's something, you're the head of our association. I don't understand. I'm not asking to be there. I don't want to be in there arguing for.
But coach, to me, but the state is prioritizing your OSI for your PowerPoints. That has nothing to do with divisions. Like, you don't put divisions with strengths of your OSI, because that just says we played tough teams in the past, has no value to who's good or not. And then you're stuck in a division with some powerhouses. So it should be put together by your SI. That's what should be done. That's
100%, 100% agree. And that's my contention. And, we'll see where it goes in the future. But, and honestly, whatever, it's not, like I've said in the past, it's not something that prevents us. I love playing that division. That means we're a good football program. We're considered one of the best, but that's got to be earned, and it's also got to be fair and equitable.
All right, Coach, can you talk about your coaching staff, the assistant coaches that make you look good every single year, and they're the glue to the program? So let's hear some of the coaches' names.
Yeah, we've had a great coaching staff over the years that I've been the head coach here, and we've all been together a real long time, and a good group of guys. And we work well together. So our wide receiver offense coordinator is my brother, Mike Oizerowitz. He's been with me going all the way back to when I was at Lakewood. Billy Dowd's our offensive line and defensive line coach, and he's one of the best in the business. He pretty much, if you got a little bit of talent, he can make something out of you as an offensive lineman, and we're excited to have him again. And he's also working with the defensive line as well for the first time in my tenure. So I know he's excited about that. Our quarterback coach is Anthony Penna, former state championship quarterback here for us. Has been on the staff for a long time now, spanning myself and previous staff. So, he does a great job. His communication is excellent, and he's young enough to be able to relate to the players. Our running back coach is Nick Zaza, another member of our '07 state title team, also played for us in '08 as well. Excellent with the kids, great rapport, and is an excellent football coach. Our defensive back coach is my other brother, Joe Oizerowitz, is our defensive back coach. He's back with us this year. He took a year off. Another guy that's been with us was an assistant coach back on the '07 and '08 and '09 team. So good coach and another family member. And we also have our linebacker special teams coach, Gabe Brunin, been with us since '06 as well. Another excellent coach, good person, works in the district and does a great job. We have Coach Dowd's younger son, Billy Dowd, working with us as a volunteer with the freshmen. And film and technology, we have Drew Hildick and CJ Najelski working that for us, the iPads and all that kind of good stuff.
That's nice, man. Are your coaches pretty good with technology, with all that stuff?
I'm not at all. I'm learning. I mean, this year teaching in the classroom probably helped me, for football as much as anything, being able to do that and, Zoom meetings, all that kind of stuff. But, it's mixed. I'm a veteran coach. Billy's a veteran coach. My brother Mike's a veteran coach. Some of the younger guys, Zaz and Penna are good with it. Gabe's, kind of pretty good with it as well. My brother Joe's good with it. He's a younger guy. He's pretty good with it. But it's not my thing. I still like, if I could go back to VHS tapes or, the old millimeter film and
with the
break it
chalkboards,
down frame by frame and break it down pen and pencil, even Huddle, I like the access to it, but it's good, but it's got its flaws. I'm kind of an old soul. So, no, I'm not good at it. Some of my staff members are pretty good at it, but it costs a lot of money and sometimes it doesn't work. I think you probably had the iPads don't sometimes glitch out in a key moment. You want to go back, you want to see something's not there or didn't pick up something. So, yes, there's benefits to it, and some of my guys are better than others at it. But it's really, if it's usable, it's great. If it's not, then I'm old school that way.
Okay, Coach, let's talk a little 2021 Tom Driver North Mariners football team. But before you go on, just tell us briefly what you guys run offensively, defensively, and talk about what you're looking forward to this year with the football team.
Sure. Yeah, on offense, we've been a power spread since I've taken over. So, and that's something a lot of teams are running nowadays. But we've done that, and we may change or focus on certain formations on a given year, but position group, personnel groupings. But we'll be that again this year. And in defense, we've been a 3-4 since I was at Lakewood. And so we're still a 3-4.
So, now comes another year, 2021 season. We're done with the COVID stuff from last year. So what are you thinking now going into this year?
Well, listen, we have probably the smallest senior class, certainly since I've been here as an assistant and a head coach. So we're going to be young for sure. The boys that we got back, we have a few really, really solid senior football players that are good players, good program guys, talented athletes, and love Tom's River North. And they'll be good for us. They'll be solid, and they're going to need to be. And they're going to really need to teach some of our young guys the North way, the way that we do things. They've been here when we won. These seniors were sophomores on our 2019 division title team where we won that difficult American division. So they know how to win. They know how to perform. They know how to play against tough competition. Certainly have tough competition again this year, a lot like 2019. So Mike Dowd, Justin Smith, and Ty Kazanowski, those are our veteran returners, 2 seniors, 1 junior, that I think understand the proper way that we need to go about our business and do things. Those are the guys we're kind of relying on. And we're just breaking in really a large group of sophomores and juniors that did not start for us last year. They are talented. They are. But they don't have any game experience, varsity game experience in a division like this. It's going to be a challenge for sure. We're kind of excited. We've had a lot of fun this summer. I got to tell you, Coach. Though, the boys show up. The biggest thing is, you could have a really talented team, but you got to chase them around to come to practice, right? We've
Hmm.
all had those. Maybe they're high maintenance. Certain kids want the ball, and they are. We've had a group that has done everything we wanted. Once we got to go that we could start working out in the off season, they were there. The attendance
Good.
was great. They put the time in. The summer workouts. Once we got clearance that we have some more restrictions than some other places. When we could start going in the summer, they're there. I mean, our attendance is phenomenal. All right, very high attendance rate. And what they're learning, and this is the fun part about I see for me at this stage of my career, it's funny. You probably heard this too. When I was young, I couldn't wait to get through the summer. When I was a young coach
Yeah.
assistant, couldn't wait to, man, I want to speed the summer up,
It goes.
get through those days,
Don't rush
get
it.
through
Yeah.
her dog days. I couldn't wait for the game week to be over. I couldn't wait for Friday nights and Saturday afternoons, right? That was me as a young coach. It wasn't much different as a player, right? And I had when I was a young coach, I had an older coach, I forget who it was, said, listen, the older you get, the less you enjoy game day.
Yeah.
You get more stressed about that. You get more agitated about that. And you really enjoy the practices. And that's where I'm at. I mean, I love the grind of practice, the daily schedule, going through. All right, this is what we got to work on today. This is what we need to work on tomorrow. This is what we weren't so good on today. We need to brush that up by the end of this week. Those are the things that we're now in, right? We're waist deep in that. I love summer camp. I enjoy it. As I've gotten older, it's been something that I look forward to. And, if I could extend the summer another month, more time for preparation, especially for a division like this, I'd love it. Now, there's a lot of talk out there. I saw Coach Hansen with an article the other day, who retired at St. Peter's Prep, saying that the summer should be shorter. I disagree. Sorry, I disagree. You have other sports that go all year round. Football's not allowed to go 365. We say it's a 365 job in the off season as far as working out. It's not. You're not allowed to get on the field and throw the ball around and play football. Basketball has summer baseball, summer basketball. They're doing that during our time. When it hits summer, don't tell me I can't practice with our team. As soon as that last spring sport's over, now you may feel differently as a coach, and you have the right to say, you know what, I'm going to give the boys off.
Yeah.
But don't say we can't. And I know there's been discussion about that. And Coach Hansen, I was shocked to hear that, because
Yeah.
the
I didn't see that. I didn't see that article.
we're pushing that envelope. It was in one of the media outlets. But uh, no, I love summer camp. I enjoy teaching and the development of young players, especially. There's no pressure for the first time in a long time here since I've been the head coach to go out and be the team that has a little bit of a target. I wish we had a little more of a target than we do, but I'm enjoying the hunt, and I'm enjoying working with our young players and trying to develop them and also get them to understand what's before them. It's a tremendous challenge. It really is. And so I'm enjoying that. Now, we come September 3rd, I'll be pretty stressed out, I'm sure, pacing those sidelines, and I won't be enjoying that as much, probably, no matter what the score is.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned to relish the practice time and the development of the team. And that's something that's really evolved over time. For me, it's flipped around, where I just couldn't wait to play as a young coach. But I think as head coaches, we have a little more wisdom than we did when we were younger. And we understand that really the game is won during the week. Your team is forged during the summer. You're going to jump as a team from week to week, but really your biggest gains are during the summertime. They're critical from day to day,
Mm-hmm.
from scrimmage to scrimmage, and then once you start, the gains are minimized. So, and injuries start to set in. So you really need to make your gains happen now. And so that's kind of what we're focused on. I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing us go from day to day and see the levels jumping. And that's been fun. And these guys are real energetic. We have a small varsity football squad this year in comparison to other years, but there's a lot of good football players within it. And we have a large freshman class, which was good to see, because they'll augment us in the future. So, we're happy where the program is and where we're going and what the future looks like in the near future. And really, all you can do is control the moment that you're in, and that's kind of what we're focused on as that for me as a staff, and conveying that to the players as well.
Coach, just two things. Just I want to echo that this year is more important with your senior leadership, because you don't have a lot of seniors, and those youthful kids need them to really. I mean, it's going to be a lot different this year than any other year because there's not a lot of seniors, so their leadership is going to be important for you, right?
You're right, and honestly, I think our young men, they look up to the veteran leadership in that locker room. One's a coach's son, our offensive line coach's son, Mike Dowd. So he's been around the program forever. Nobody loves North and bleeds, Navy and gold more than that
Sure,
family for sure.
sure.
And he's been a really
Yeah.
strong leader for us, encouraging the boys. Justin Smith,
Mhm.
who's his line mate, who's one of the better centers, I think, in the league coming in. And, Ty Kaznowski was outstanding for us last year, and we know who his older brother was. And he understands, he loves being a North Mariner football player, and he understands, what it takes to win. And so our younger boys, they have talent. They're rambunctious. They're ready to go. You know what I mean? They got a lot of energy, and we just got to channel it and make sure it's going in the right direction. And the biggest thing is our boys just have to learn how to compete. There's practice
Mhm.
competition and there's game day competition. There's a difference there. The energy, the adrenaline, your level. We talked about that with the guys. You could be a great practice player and flatline on game day. You
Yeah.
have to raise your level
Yes.
on game day. It's funny,
Yeah.
when I was the head coach of Lakewood, I used to get nervous because we didn't practice as good as I wanted to. You know what I mean? And at times, and but we found out that
They
through
were
a scrimmage
gamers.
process, they were
They were
gamers, man.
gamers.
So I knew if I could get them to practice a little better each day. Look, they didn't have to be as good as we were maybe at high school South, or right, but if I could get my guys to practice a little bit, and they did, we started to practice better, and then it started translating to the game that they competed on game day. So practice is super important, but they also have to raise their level on game day, and that's a message that we're kind of hammering home to our team.
Coach, there's some coaches that can't get on a stage and talk on a mic in front of a big crowd, but there are kids that can play in front of big crowds,
True.
but and don't practice well. Coach, the thing that a lot of people didn't realize, but while you were talking, was you are a head football coach that loves to teach. You love to teach. You love the grind. You love all this, and your games are tests. That's what they are. So you're preparing your kids for the test, and that's scary. To me, it's a very, very scary for other program because you're under the radar. You're young. You're enjoying the grind, and you know that there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, and the end of the tunnel could be next week, it could be in 2 weeks. You don't know when they turn the switch on. It's going to be scary. You're under the radar because you're an established football program that's been there, done it, and you have some really good pieces. You got to be excited about that. You're right. The only pressure is internally. You know, that's what I'm sure that you're echoing that off to the kids, right?
Yeah, I mean, we feel it. We listen when they put that jersey on. They understand the expectations that we have within the program internally. We do, as a staff. Listen, all of us want to win. We're competitors. We talk to our team all the time about competing. It doesn't matter what we're playing,
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing. We want to compete, and yeah, our boys understand it. But they also have to understand that just because you wear the North jersey doesn't mean you're going to be a good football player or a good program or a good
Mm-hmm.
team that year. You
Mm-hmm.
have to walk the walk. You have to do the certain things that everybody else has done with talent, all right, and believe in what we're doing and what your teammate is going to do. And there's a lot of trust involved with that, and that's what makes that's what makes our sport so challenging, and it makes the profession. And listen, you could say, well, this team's on paper loaded, and this. Listen, there's a lot of variables that go into winning football games, and you could look back. We all can. Heck, I look back at our state championship run there, and we were an injury away, or maybe a play away and here and there, where that season could have went off the rails. And so the season is a journey, and there's seasons within the season that happen, and how they handle those situations, the mental toughness that they have, in other words, that will dictate the outcome. And so now listen, some teams are just going to be so talented, and
Mm-hmm.
you could and if you play your best, they may beat you, but it's the way you handle yourself during that could show and demonstrate growth that brings you to the next week and allows you to beat somebody else that maybe you should beat or could beat.
Right.
And so these are the lessons that we know inherently as coaches are there, but we got to try to get our boys ready for, and that's what we're doing right now. And it is fun. It's fun.
Your attitude determines your altitude, and you do it every year. You get a lot out of your program, coach, and this will be no different. and I'm expecting to hear the band playing on Friday nights and everybody excited. And you're like that young coach again, getting excited, and you'll never lose that feeling as a head coach. You never will. I know you. You're as competitive as you are. You have a lot of pride, and you're gonna do the best job you possibly could, which is usually a very winning tradition wherever you're at. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really do. I'm going to be at Tom Driven North Tuesday. You know,
We'll see what happens.
yeah. Well, at least you'll have a Hawaiian shirt somewhere in the stands. So, but I'm excited to see, you guys up front, and that's that. So this will be up tomorrow morning, Coach, and the shortfootballreport.com. I'm now a .com dude. I'm a media guy. I'll be following you guys and all the other programs in the short conference, and hopefully make it fun for you guys, because you're going to make it fun for everybody else that comes watch your games. Really are. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us, Rob. Appreciate it, buddy.